Okay. So Zok the Gemara as follows. Lema, we're on the fourth line on Kuf Mem He'amadal. Lema, let's say that this argument of Tenu Li Baili, the Esmachimoi, whether a woman can say, I'm not refunding the Mois Kedushin, produce my husband, and I will be happy to marry him, and therefore I will not refund the Mois Kedushin, Tanahi. It's a Machlokas Tanoi. Why would you think that she should have to return it? The teretz is, when someone's Mekadesh Anisha, he's not being Mekadesh Anisha, so she should be Mekudeshes. He wants to make Nesuin and take her in and live with her. And therefore, if he's not living with her, he wants his Kedushin back. So Zok the Gemara as follows. Lema Tenu Li Baili, the Esmachima is Tanoi, the Tanya. Hama'aris Eso Isha, someone makes Erisin on a woman, and the Rashbam speaks out. If he said, when does our Chiyuv Ksuba kick in? We know, after the Kedushin, because we do the Kedushin first, then we have Priest Ksuba, and he hands it to his shviger, through his wife, through his wife, right? And then we do the Nusul. But it's the Rashbam says we're talking about a case where someone was already Mechayiv himself with the Shibudim of Ksuba by the Erison. So therefore, if it's a Basula, she's entitled to Masayim. That's the standard Ksuba of a Basula. V'almona mona. Mokoim tunahagu lahachzir kedushin. A place where it would be the minik to refund the kedushin. Machzirin, you refund it. Mokoim tunahagu shaloi lahachzir kedushin. But if it was a city where they didn't refund the kedushin, ein machzirin. Divi Rab Nosson. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Omer be'emes amru. You know what we really said? Mokum shenhagu lahachzer machzirin, mokum shenhagu shaloi lahachzer ein machzirin, which seems to be word for word repeated what Rab Nosson said. You know what I mean? What type of machloikas is this? Can you imagine if everybody had shalom bayis problems where they were both saying the same thing? There wouldn't be any problems. Everyone's in agreement. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi Hanu Tanakama. Is Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi not mirroring what the Tanakama said, what Rab Nosson said? Ella Lav, there must be more going on here behind the scenes. And this is what must have happened. Tenuli baili ve'esmechimai ikabenayu. The machlokas must be our shaila. How do you see that in these words? You don't. But you know the Gemara always tries to say, since there's no machlokas, let's put this. Let's say this is the machlokas. And of course, we're going to have to explain and massage the brayso a little bit. Hamaris as a isha. If someone's ma'aris a woman, bisula, if she's a bisula, goyva masayim. V'almona mona. When do we say that she has a right to collect her ksuba should a marriage disintegrate? The hadr be'iyu. If he decided that he wasn't interested in the marriage anymore, and then he wants to give her a get, avol meisa. But if she died, mokim shenahagu lahachzir machzir, in a place where the minig was that the family would refund the kedushin ringel, you give it back. Mokim shenahagu shaloi lahachzir, and the minig. In the cities where the minig was that these family didn't give back the kedushin ring, ein machzir, and they don't give it back. But v'dafka shemeisahi, that's only if she died. Aval mesu, what if he died? Ein machzir, then for sure she doesn't. For sure she doesn't have to give back the ring to his next of kin. My timer. Why is that? Because yechoylehi sheteyomer tenuli baili ve'esmachim. So that would be the sheet of Rab Nosson. But Rabbi Yehuda Anasi Lameimar Be'emes Amru Bein Mesu Upein Mesahi Mokum Shenhagu Lahachzer Machzirin Mokum Shenhagu Shaloi Lahachzer Ein Machzirin, and therefore, if it's a place where you give it back, V'leimotzi Amra Tnuli Baili Ve'esmachim. So that is the machlok. So let's go back to the brisa and read it inside to see if we can figure out why is it that the Gemara attributed that you could say Tnuli Baili to Rab Nosson, and that you can't say Tnuli Baili according to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. So let's have a look. The Tanya, Amar says Isha, Vesula gave Masai, Valmanim Mana, Mokim Shenhagal Lahachs Kedushin Machzirin. If she backed out, if she died, right? Mokim Shenhagal Shalolachser Kedushin Ein Machzirin. Doesn't say anything about if he dies that she could say, produce my husband. Divi Rabbi Nosson, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Amar Be'emes Amru. Again, you don't see anywhere one should say more than the other, right? So that's Tosfos' kasha. Why did when the Gemara decided to squeeze this machloikus into the discussion of Reb Nosson and Reb Yehuda. Why did it blame Reb Nosson on the halacha that she could say Tnuli Baili, and why do we blame that you can't say it according to Reb Nosson? So the reason why the Gemara went with this approach is because normally each one builds on the last. So basically, Reb Nosson said that she wouldn't have to give it back, and Reb Yehuda said not only that, she has to give it back too. So that's how the Rashba, that's how Tosfos says it. I'm just like the 2-line Tosfos. You want to see it? The second Tosfos. The Ein Loimer Dilma Rabbi Yehuda Savar Hi Yechad Loimer. The Tana Basra L'Tfuyakasi. Normally, the more liabilities you add on usually would be the later tonight. So, but it's very arbitrary. It's very not muchach in this machlokes, but that's what the Gemara wants to suggest now that that's the machlokes.
We're still saying Makom Shnogu Shloilach She'ein Machzir. Even according to ones that say that you're allowed to say Tnuli Bali Basra. Why?
No, it's not saying that.
If you say Tnuli Bali, then you know you never give it back.
It says Makom Shnogu Hachzir Machzir. Nothing Shnogu Shloilach Hachzir Ein Machzir. Sorry, the one that says Makom Shnogu Hachzir. That means there are places like that. So what would be the reason? Why couldn't she say Elamites or Raya that we don't say right in that very words? Because otherwise, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they say Machzir?
So that's a very good point that you're bringing up. But if you look at the Gemara Chsura Mechsura, the Gemara adds another case that's not even discussed in the Brisa. And the Mokav Shnagel L'Hachshir Machzirin Loy Machzirin is not talking about a case when he died. So it's not even addressing that case. Let's look at this inside one more time. Let's look at the Chsur Mechsur V'Achitani. Hamaris as a Isha B'Sula Goyim Masayim V'Almona Mona V'Meidavar Mom D'Hadr Ba'Iyu. Avol Meisa if she died. Mokav Shnagel L'Hachshir Machzirin Mokav Shnagel L'Hachshir Machzirin. It's talking about when she died.
Can't talk anyway.
When she died, there's no such taina. So the Brisa using these words is not talking about the case where he died, where it's relevant. The case where it's relevant is not even mentioned in the Brisa. It's completely fabricated that the Brisa was talking about. That's what I meant to say. It's not even discussing it. The Psak Halacha in the Mishnah is discussing a completely different case. It's totally doesn't matter who died. Why? Because you follow the minute.
I'm saying the other is good proof the other way is this, because it does say there being
Right, you follow the minute. She doesn't have a taina, and therefore you follow the minute.
But the minute it was a taina of a person's allowed to say.
Right, but since there is no taina, therefore you can follow the minute. If a person has a taina, it should trump the minute.
The minute goes against the Sarah.
Correct. You could only have the minute if you hold that she doesn't have that taina. That's correct. That's exactly correct. So Zok Gemara, it's not so much. Loi, the chula alma yechayla shetei amar tnuli baili vasmachim. The Gemara actually is going to remain with this. Halacha l'maisa, everybody holds that if he dies, she does not have to refund the kesef kedusha, and therefore udemishu, if he in fact died, chula alma loy pli. So what is the machlokes between Reb Yehuda Nosson and Reb Nosson? A new case. He pligi shemesahi, she died. And there's a tzad that even if she died, he wouldn't have to return the kedushin. The machlokes is when someone gives kesef kedushin, is he giving it up? Aishlum tevun means miloshen drowning. Once you give it to her, when you give your wife money, you ain't never getting it back, right? If your wife tells you, my dear husband, I went shopping today and I saved $1,000, and you tell her, okay, put it on the table. I want to see the $1,000. Doesn't happen, right? So at the end of the day, when you give your wife kedushin, you ain't never getting it back. That's the machlokes. Reb Nosson savar kedushin lav l'tivun. The kedushin is lav l'tivun. So therefore, Reb Nosson's lashon was Mokem shenagol hachzir kedushin machzirin. Mokem shenagol shaloi lachzir kedushin a machzirin diver Reb Nosson, because you can't money back because the kedushin is lost. Rabbi Yehuda Nossi savar kedushin l'tivunit. Rabbi Yehuda Nossi says no. Once you give a kedushin away, you're never getting it back. So Rabbi Yehuda Nossi So what's the losh of Yudanasi? The MS Amru Malkam Shinahagu Lahaksu Machsirin Malkam Shinahagu Shalolachsu Ein Machsir. So over here is where Moshe would ask me a kasha. I don't understand. If you're telling me that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi holds that once you give kedushin, you're never getting it back. So what do you mean Malkam Shinahagu? Once you give it, you're giving it up. So Frek the Gemara about Malkam Shinahagu Lahaksu Machsirin Katan. If we're saying whenever a person gives kedushin, he never ever intends to get it back. So where's he getting it back from? That's right. Zok Gemara, you know what that's talking about? It's not even talking about the kedushin, because the discussion on our mission is not the kedushin at all. Discussion in our mission in our brisa between Rab Nosson and Rab Yehuda Nasi is Hachi Gamar v'sivloinos. The kedushin, it's totally if it's litibun or not. That's not even discussed in the brisa. But what we're discussing is gifts, and we're going to see in the Rishram exactly what these gifts are. Sivloinos v'adai mokim shenagu lachsa machsir. So the kedushin ring, according to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, you for sure don't give back. But the jewelry, which is worth a lot more than the kedushin ring, that's totally in the minig if you give it back or not. What are these sivloinos? Sivloinos vadai bahu maidina loch de b'menhagatol yemils. That could be totally in a minute because you don't say you gave it back; you gave it for keeps. It's the presents that you send to your wife during the engagement. Avol kedushin, according to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, vadai letivu and nitnu. Once you give it, you're never getting it back.
And why wouldn't the same story apply to the gifts? The woman could say, "I'll be thrilled to I'll be thrilled to have a husband, and why not give it a gift?" What would be? Where's the difference in the swear between kiddush and money and some wedding?
I guess it's not included.
That's my house though. So a very interesting point over here. Very interesting point. So let's go back to the Rashbam, the Tivunit. It's a Tanai, it's a person's das when he's giving the Moish Kedushin. Shem Tomus, Voloi, Yiska Lisa Ena, Yiu Avudim, The question is, when I'm giving my Moish Kedushin, are there strings attached? Am I giving it on Manas that we're going to follow through to a Nesuin or not? Civilians don't necessarily have those same things. Even if I'm going to give you a Kedushin, I finally give it to you with no strings attached, the presents could be with strings attached.
And I don't know exactly the same. Kedushin is statutory. It's a required payment. So it's gone. It's I have to do this. The other stuff's coming from the heart.
I'm going on the other side.
The other stuff's coming from the heart.
I'll be glad to.
But the other stuff's coming from the heart. The guy's saying, I gave it to you because I thought there was more coming. I thought there was more coming down the road. If there's nothing more coming, I'm happy.
That's what I felt.
Yeah.
Yosy,
Question: Shmuel wants to know. Okay, that's Savloinis, that's Kedushin. What about Shatchanis? Is it? Mokum shel hagu lahachzir. Mokum shel lahachzir ein machzirin. No, over there's the mokum shel hagu lahachzir ein machzirin. Okay.
Yosy,
Kahana tanoi.
1 second, the tachshitim that we give when you're engaged.
That's the Savloinis. The Savloinis, you apply it to Machloikis, means to tell them the minig. If the minig is to give them back, then they're given back. And if the minig is not to give them back, then you don't give them back.
What is our minig? You give them back?
It's a rare thing, Chas v'sholom, under the chuppah, after the kedushin, that one of them should die is very rare. It's also very rare that after the kedushin, before our presence we give before the kedushin. I don't know if they follow the same rule.
Especially we let it back after divorce. You have to return the.
Well, for sure, some lawyers don't.
That's after the sin.
Right, that's after the sin already.
I'm saying that.
Because I'm giving them because I want it to lead to a nesuin. It led to a nesuin.
That comes.
No, but it led to a nesuin, and I had it already. Now we illustrated there's a machloikas tanoim between Rabbi Yehuda Nasi and Rabbi Nosson if kedushin is letivu and nitnu or not, right? We have such a machloikas. Zok Gemara, they're not the only tanoim who argued about this. There's another set of tanoim that have the same machloikas if kedushin is letivu and nitnu. Mahani tanoi kani tanoi. The Tanya, kitcha bekikar. This brayta is not going to make any sense. The Gemara is going to have to elaborate on it, and then it'll come into focus. The Tanya Kitcher Bekikar, if someone used a kikar to make kedushin, a kikar is 25 mana. Just to put it into perspective, the ksuba of a basula is 2 mana, it's masayim, and the ksuba of an almana is almana. For kedushin, he used 25 mana. That's like giving a kedushin ring that's worth $300,000. So he gave a massive moist kedushin, way more than even the value of the ksuba. So what if he used a kikar, which is a huge amount of money to do the kedushin, and then the marriage dissolves? Besula gaiva masayim. The besula will get her 200 of ksuba. Ve'almana mana. It doesn't discuss what happened to the kedushin, right? Diver Reb Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer besula gaiva masayim. Ve'almana mana umachzeres loyas hashar. So that sounds like there's so much moist kedushin there, so she takes from that what she's entitled to for the ksuba, but the rest she has to refund. So at the pashtus is that Rebbe Meir is saying she doesn't have to refund anything. Not only did he give her this massive kedushin, she can go after for even more money to get her ksuba. But Rebbe Yehuda says no. She has to give back the kedushin money. She could just withhold enough to.
You can say Rameh that she gets to keep what she got, and in that included.
No, because that's Rebbe Yehuda. Machzeres lo yisashar. Rebbe Yehuda says
you got to return it.
So Rebbe Yehuda is saying. So you're saying it's a refundable tax credit versus a non-refundable tax credit.
Say what you got, you got. Done.
So then why does he have to give her more money now?
He doesn't.
He does. Yes, Basula goyva masayim. She can collect masayim.
From that,
I don't know if that was called goyva. Goyva means that it's a new collection. Rabbi Yosy, so Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda we can make heads or tails out of. Rabbi Yosy is very cryptic. Rabbi Yosy, it depends. If kitcha be'esrim noisen lo shloisha chatzayim. If he was mekadosh with 20, then he gives her 30 halves. Kitcha be'shloishim noisen lo esrim chatzayim. Very mysterious. B'mayaskim. What exactly is the case where we have this three-way machlokes? Ilema shemesa. If she was the one who died, miyis l'ksuba. If the woman dies, she doesn't get any ksuba at all. So that can't be the discussion over here. Ve'el shemesu. It must be that he died, and we're saying she collects her ksuba, and she might or may not get her. You have to get the kedusha back. Amai mechzeres lo yisashar. According to Rabbi Yehuda, why does she have to refund the leftover kedushin? We already said earlier that chul al mamoida, that she could say, "V'nei matnuli baili v'etzmechimah." He died. Why should I give back the moist kedushin? Produced the husband. I'm happy to go through with the nisuin. So that cannot be shot in your Yehuda. So what must be the case? It must be speaking about an Eishes Yisrael that was mezanen. In fact, when you look at the details, it won't help us. If she was mezanen b'ratzayin, miyis l'ksuba, she doesn't get a ksuba. Ve'ala ba'oin is mishra sharile. She just stays married. There is no impact. The Ella, you know what the case was? It was be'eshes koyin shenenza. We know if an Eishes koyin is nenza, she didn't do anything wrong, but she's usher to her husband. Eishes koyin shenenza is usher to her husband, so he's forced to divorce her, but she gets a ksuba because she didn't do anything wrong. Now the question is, an Eishes koyin was nenza. He has to divorce her, give her a ksuba. Does she have to refund the mois kedushin? Let's say that is the machlokes, whether or not she has to return the mois kedushin. So now let's see how the chips fall. Reb Meir savar kedushin l'tivunit. Reb Meir hoped that the cost of kedushin that he gave her is his; it's lost forever. Now that he has to divorce her, she can go collect another mana or masayim, depending on whether or not she was a basula or an almana when she got married. Rabbi Yehuda savar lavo tivunit. The husband gets the money back. The marriage dissolved, he gets the money back. So therefore, she could withhold the mois ksuba, but the remainder she has to refund. And Rabbi Yosy misafkalei ilitibu nitnu iloi. Rabbi Yosy is not sure. So first, I want to tell you what the psak is, and then we'll see exactly how it translates into a practical application. Rabbi Yosy wasn't sure, so therefore Rabbi Yosy knows for sure she could collect her ksuba. So if she was almana, she collect almana. She was a basula, she collect masayim. As far as the money of the kedushin, she has to give back half. Because we bought it to Suffolk. If she has to give it back, we say mammon hamut l'Suffolk yachalek. Right? So based on that, let's see how the chips fall. the hill. If he was Makalisher with 20 coins, and the Rashbam gives us some conversion rates so that we could understand what's going on over here. If he was Makalisher with 20 coins, which the Rashbam tells us as follows. Kitcha Almana b'chav shkolim, which is 80 zuzim. Now her ksuba as an almana would be 100 zuzim. Almana is 100 zuzim. He was Makalisher with 80 zuzim. So if he was Makalisher with 80 zuzim, so let's see how that works out. Out of the 80 zuzim, she gets to keep 40, and she has to give him back 40, right?
First she has to get the two.
Well, if we're going to get to there in a second. So as far as how to split the Moish Kedushin, she keeps 40, and she has to return 40. But he owes her 100, right? If she's an almana. So she'll keep that 40 that she was supposed to return to him towards Shuksuba, and he'll have to add another 60. So that's exactly what the Gemara says. So therefore, which means now 40 she keeps for the Kedushin, and 40 can go towards her Ksuba. He still owes her more money when you do the reconciliation. Shloishim Chatzoin. Tosha says Chatzoin was a typical coin they had. Shloishim Chatzoin is 60. What? Right? It's worth 60 zuz. So that fills her entitlement of 100. But Kitzah B'Shloishim, which is now 120, so 60 she keeps because of the suffix. The other 60 she keeps towards her ksuba, and he owes her another 40. Therefore, Noisma Eshem Chatzoin, which is another 40. And that's how it works. That's what the chips fall.
Is there any difference between the two cases that we're learning two examples in the same case?
I mean, how much he used for Kesef Kedushin, does it matter? There's no halachic difference, it's just an example.
Two examples.
That's right.
Something different between the two examples?
Only how much money he used for the Kesef Kedushin. So you might ask, why would they?
That's what she's asking.
Right. I that's a good point. You bring up a good point. Just give one example, and we could extrapolate to any scenario.
Given amount.
I hear. That's a good hour. I'm satisfied that a chap what's going on because it was very confusing at first. You're already next level. Once you understand, it's a good hour.
That's what we had. We got the next level.
Why does Rabbi Yosy not just say go according to the minute, which would seem to be the other possibility?
Because this is a case of mamana mutal b'safek. It's a machlokes of kesef lushus l'tivun. Remember, the tivun trumps the
What
minute.
happened to you have to give me a riot?
I'm sorry?
I have the money. I think, but why we passing like simple?
What do you mean she's there's no mochi mechaber l'varai here.
Why?
Yeah, but he could say I'm using it towards a ksuba. Yeah, you have the money, but how much you want more money from me ksuba?
Right.
I'll only give you the minimum.
Can't talk anymore. He's dead.
Uh-huh. No, maybe he divorced her. No, he divorced her. He's alive.
Is the claim.
But anyway, your kasha is a machlokes, right?
Yeah.
And they're abundant hold on which that's the shayla.
He's asking.
Yeah, he's going with sumkas. So Amar Rabbi Yosef bar Menyume, Amar Rabbi Nachman. Sorry.
You go with some.
I mean, we actually, when we learned the sugya, we learned that our cases were even the rabbanon hold on which there's no muksik. So here I don't know if there's a muksik. So that's a whole different sugya, but it would be relevant here. So Amar Rabbi Yosef bar Menyume, Amar Rabbi Nachman. B'chol makoim shenahagu lahachser maksirin. And this is going back at the end of the day to the savloinus, right? It's not applying to the kedushin. Kedushin tells them the wherever the minig is to give it back, that's where they give it back. V'targuma naharda. Which places did they give it back? It was in naharda that they gave it back. Shar Bavel Mai. What was the minig in other places? Rabbi Yosef, Dami Tarbayu, Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef both said, Muhari Hadri, Kedushi Loy Hadri. The gifts would go back, but the Kedushin would not go back. Oh, so Vaisachais, when in Nardah, where the minig is that it goes back, it's referring to Kedushin as well, so it must be according to the Mandamar that Kedushin will have the Tivunos. So the Muhari goes back, the Kedushi don't go back. What is Muhari? So it's funny because Savloinis are gifts and Muhari are gifts. When he says Muhari, hurry up, I want to get married, she sells him Savlanut. So that's probably why the two different types of gifts are referred to as Muhari and Savlonis, because they both work together. Okay, I don't think any of the Rishonim mentioned this. This could be his
That's why I thought you my father was one of
For a price, for a condition.
Hurry up.
You cost them on it, and you're- cost them on it, and you're the price told you, cost them, if you have to make, hurry up, you have to hurry up.
Muhari Hadri. So what are Mahari? What are Mahari? Zok to Rashbam, Shishaleach Acha Kedushin. They're gifts that are sent after Kedushin. Vein Sevloinois. They're the same Sevloinis that we discussed earlier. However, the Rashbam says, Venir Be'enai, the Trey Gavni Ninu, there's two types of gifts. There's Muhari and there's Sevloinis. The Hagabis, how do I know that? Because here we're addressing Muhari, and later on the Gemara is going to directly address Sevloinis. So how could they be the same thing? So what's the difference between the two? The Moyar who Momoin, Shemaktim lo ata b'mei erison, she'ekosev v'ksuba keshetinasu. He wrote in the Tzuba, I'm going to give you X dollars after we're married, after we make the Zuin. So he advances her the money. So that's what the Mahari is. So Vlonius are gifts like jewelry. Because she's getting it faster, Maher, she's getting the money before she was entitled to it. Okay. Zog to Gemara Vaiter. Amemar said, Kedushi loy hadri. Even if it's the minute to give back the Kedushin, we do not allow the Kedushin to go back. Gezeira Shema Yarmu, Kedushin Taifsim Bachos. We know that if you marry a woman, as long as that woman is alive, even if you divorce her, you cannot marry her sister. Right? That's halacha. If people witness her refunding the Mois Kedushin, people are going to think that there was never a Kedushin, and now this man can go marry this woman's sister. So therefore, they say, do never return the Mois Kedushin, because that could leave a fake impression that could lead people to think that there was never a marriage to the first sister, and therefore he could marry the other sister. But Rav Ashi Amar, why would you think that? Gita Machiyachala. We're talking about a woman who requires a get. She was a nation's kohen that was Nansa. So she's getting a get. So everybody knows she's Migureshes. So if she's Migureshes, clearly you're not allowed to marry the sister of your Gerusha. Zok to Gemara, V'ad Rav Ashi B'dusi. It's not really a good taina because the Ika de Shama Baha, Shama Baha. There could have been people who saw the Kedushin being refunded, but didn't see the get. So for those people, there would be a mistake, and therefore our Maimar said, never should you ever have a situation where a woman returns the Mois Kedushin, because people are going to think that the Kedushin was never Chalach at Chila, and that's too dangerous. Zok the Heilige Gemara Vayt. Shashvinois Nigvis Bebest. The Mishnah told us, why is it that the Shashvinas belongs to the estate? Because it's not some a new gift that was given to one of the brothers. Then, of course, he would get to keep it. But it's a liability that was owed to the father, which was owed to the estate. Therefore, just because this brother received it, it doesn't mean that it's his. It really belongs to the estate. This Gemara is a very interesting Gemara because we go to Chas, we give gifts, we don't give cheshbon. You're going to see people who were much pettier in those days. They actually, when they gave a gift, they actually sent an Excel spreadsheet along with the gift to show the calculation why I'm giving you exactly this gift.
My mother told me that.
Right?
She was growing up. Not younger. By a Chasnas fish. One guy would like to pay the Chasnas hydro bill for a year.
Right.
They would pay the food bill like that.
Uh-huh.
Some of their guys' household expenses depends on us.
Really?
Yeah.
Like they tell Nair Lamar, he told Nair Lamar.
I'll pay this.
So the Gabba got up and said, Nair Lamar, say no Nair Lamar. Wow.
Yeah, it's up.
Yeah, I hear it. Tell the Rabbanon. Chamisha Dvarim.
This should now be sold on the internet.
Tell them Chamisha Dvarim, Nemer B'Shashvinis. There's 5 halachas regarding gifts. Number 1 is Nigvis Bebezdin. We know that from our Mishnah, you actually could mon it in Bezdin. V'chayzeres B'Oinasa. You can't mon me to give you a gift just because you gave me a gift until you got married and I come to your house and then I party with you, then I'm mechuyev to give it, which we also learned yesterday, right? Only if he came back and partied with him, then he's mechuyev to give back the gift. If one guy gave 10,000, another guy gave back 20,000, there's no problem of ribbis. You might wonder if it's a chiyuv, why isn't there a problem of ribbis? Next, the next halacha we learn is the eina shvius misham tasa. Shvius will not be misham chatz chayiv. Why not? If it's like a chayiv, it should be. And the eina b'char noitel b'pishlai. So the Gemara elaborates. Nikvus bebezdin, my timer, kimil v'domya. It's like a regular loan, and a regular loan you could mon and bezdin. The Rashbam adds, and that would also be a reason why it's only nigvus by nos. Because if I lend you money and I say you need to pay me back on this and this date, you're not mechuyev to pay me back until this and this date. Well, here the opach was when I get married, you got to pay me back. So until that date occurs, there's no chiyuv triggered to pay back. Why is there no ribis? The lava daiti, the hachi yoivle. When we have this halacha which is you don't have to give me back what I gave you. You can give even less. You have to give a gift, but there's no specific number gift that you have to give. So if you decide to give more, it's not contractual, therefore there's no din ribis. And the einash mishum tasa, the loy karina bay lo yigois. You know the halacha is, what if 2 years before the Shemitah cycle, I give out a loan, and I say the loan is going to be payable in the 3rd year, 5 years from today, in the 3rd year of the Shemitah cycle. Shavis is not mishamet. Shavis is only mishamet a choiv that's payable now. Zok the Torah lo yigois, don't collect. But if it's not payable yet, Shemitah is not mishamet. Here too, it's not payable until he gets married back. So therefore, if in between the two chasnas, Shemitah passes, it will not be mishamet a choiv. Ve'ena bechor noitel bishnayim, and the bechor doesn't get pishnayim because it's no different than any other milva that gets collected by the estate. It wasn't in the estate at the time of death, and only if it's in the estate at the time of death do we consider it to be part of the chelik pishnayim of the bechor. Here it's getting exciting. This is the rule of when you're mechuyev. What if you got married, he gave you a beautiful gift, and now he's getting married, and you're in the city. Hava b'masa, if you're in the city, you were mechuyev to go back to his wedding and to party with him, and even if you didn't, you're still going to have to pay your fair share. You can't say I didn't party with him. You should have went to party with him, and since you didn't, you have to pay anyway. Which touches on what Reb Moshe was asking me. What if over the 5 years we grew apart and we're not friends anymore? So you can't say I'm not friends. I'm not going to your wedding. I'm not giving you a gift. You need to go to his wedding. You can't tell me I didn't go, so I'm not going to give him the gift. You should have went. What about Shama Kol Tavlo? So you're out of the city, but you heard the announcement. You saw it in the loop that there was going to be a chasna, so you knew about it. Again, you should have come. What about loy shama kol tam? What if you taka didn't even hear that there was going to be a wedding, and because of that you didn't go? The truth is, your friend should have invited you to his wedding. Loy oide, and if he didn't, I'm looking at the Bach. That's why I'm sticking these exact words. Loy oide, if your friend didn't invite you, tarum isle, you have a right to have time with him. Here, I invited you to my wedding, and
Yosy.
to your wedding, wait, but shalom mishalom, but you still have to give a gift. Even though you weren't invited, you still have to give a gift.
Yosy.
Yes.
So what if the first guy went and was in town, and then his friend gets married, he's out of town, and he has an expense to go. The first guy didn't have to
So
pay any money.
What if it costs me more to get to your chasna than it costed you? Could I deduct that? Is that your question?
And what if it didn't cost him anything? Like, let's say it was an in-town wedding, and then there was an out-of-town wedding.
Right. The first guy had no travel expenses. The second guy has travel expenses. Can he take off from the gift? Right. So we're going to see this. You're asking a very good question. What if I ate less at your wedding than you ate at my wedding? That's what the Gemara. You're laughing. That's what the Gemara is going to be discussing now. That's what the Gemara is going to discuss. So let's get this. Akiva Balder once told me. I don't know if Akiva's on. He wants me, no matter how much I eat by a parlor meeting, I never get my $18 worth. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. V'ad kama. So how much do you have to give? So Amar Abaye, nahagu b'gnei. Now the question is, I didn't get to eat by the wedding. So can I deduct some of my gift because I didn't get my full fund? So at kama the havadai tzorich l'nakos to mechilosai. For sure, I have a right to deduct from my gift to you what I would have eaten. You didn't invite me to the wedding, so you saved yourself $100 on the meal. I for sure can deduct the amount of the meal from the gift. So you can imagine you get a gift with an Excel spreadsheet showing exactly why this is the amount of the gift. You didn't invite me to the party. So Amar Bai no hagu beginei nana ad zuzah. What does it mean ad zuzah? Zuzah hayoichel. The norm was to eat a zuz. That's the normal amount that someone eats by a wedding. I'm not sure if that includes the smorg or not. So therefore, hilchach zuza poiches mit meishu shvinusa. If you didn't get invited to the wedding, but you still have to pay, you can deduct one zuz from what you would have otherwise given. Is the garsi aduze aisi bekapei ochli bekasei bevitnoi k'moy vesa koises. So I think what it means is he would bring his food in his stomach, means he would be receiving that. I think that's what it means. Unless the Arshbol explains the second nusach of Rashi differently. Okay, so aduza aisi bekapei ochli bekarsei. Which means he up until Azuz, he would have carried back in his stomach, so therefore he can deduct that because he wasn't able to do. What about Ararba? What does it mean? Dal Zuzim Mishus Vinusa. What if, I guess he owed him 4 Zuzim, so then Mishalim Palga, then he only has to pay back 2. So if his friend gave him 4 Zuzim, he only has to pay back 2 Zuzim. Why? Dal Zuzim Mishus Vinusa. Mishalam Palga. The Kivin the Mevi Dalit, if you're bringing a gift of 4 Zuzim, that means you're giving a very generous gift. If you're giving a very generous gift, you're going to get doubles by the wedding. So that means when a person came to the chassan with a gift, they had to quickly put it into a computer to calculate how much food each guest would be given. The caterer had a very complex thing. He couldn't make the same portion of everybody because he got as soon as someone came in, they checked in. They must have had a mainframe at every computer, at every chasna. So they plugged in how much the guy gave, and then it spits out what the menu should be for each individual guest. And then the caterer has to have multiple menus to give each guest based on how much is given.
Can't eat?
Where they offer steak, chicken, or fish, and then the guy has like one of those machines like
That's
this.
right.
So if you see a guy is not eating, then you know he didn't give a gift.
The kivin de like ochal yifchay shnayim in a dollar. If he was going to give 4, he knows he would have eaten 2, and therefore he only has to give 2. So, Duvi, you want to know if he could take off car fare? If he could measure molecules of chicken on his plate, he probably could deduct for traveling expenses as well. It's unbelievable.
Sitting at the table, you get this amount, you get this amount. They're very embarrassing.
I don't know how they figured it out exactly how it worked.
And don't forget, they also made a lot of chassid Friday night.
You know, I'll tell you what the terrorist is. They didn't have as many guests as we did, so it wasn't such a complex. They made it in the house that they were giving to their son, right? Well, yes, they made it in the house. So at the end of the day, it's funny how petty the gift giving was. They literally cheshbon to the penny. It's unbelievable. Okay, and this is a Geshmaka Gemara. It's a shame I didn't prepare it last night. I would have had a lot of fun. I would have had much more jokes on this. Okay, so that's where we're up to. So Zok to Gemara, I'm going to have to chazar this over again. So where are we up to? Ad arba mishalim pal. Mikan ve'elech. What if they're giving even more than 4 zuzim? What if these are talking about very wealthy, lavish people? Then inish kachashivusei. Depending on how choshev you were, that's how much food there would have been, and that's how much you could deduct. Let's have a look at the Rishbam. V'masha shu choshev. Maybe harbe, depending on how much money he would bring, and therefore they would give him even from the smorg and from the sweet table. Since he didn't come to the wedding, he can deduct that. I just find that's very amazing. Now I have one problem, and I don't have the answer to it, and maybe it's not a problem, maybe I'm making a mistake. It seems from what we just learned that there was a set amount that I was mechuyev to give. Right? If my chiv was 4, why would my chiv be 4? It must be because the guy gave me 4, right? But didn't we learn that it's not ribbis? And the Rishbam says, you know why it's not ribbis? The lava died at the ribbis joyvilay. I'm looking at the Rishbam on the 3rd skinny line. Shimrotza punches line. He could give less. In other words, it's up to you how much you want to give. Simchas reyes harbe. This guy happened to give it more. You're allowed to give more. But it says you could poiches, unless what it means, poiches but not less. Poiches but not less than what you gave me. So I have to give you that amount, but I don't have to give you more.
The question is the guy who started it all.
Right?
The very first gift, you have to be very careful.
That's right.
It's
very, very similar. It's very similar when you get an email that your friend is being honored and they want you to donate. You know that every penny that your friend gives on your behalf, they're going to come back at you when they're going to be honored by their moise, right? So every guest of honor, every penny that he raises, he's really eventually going to have to pay by himself, because if he's asking them when they get honored, they're going to ask back.
It almost should be that you don't want to have this guy already. You almost should say,
Stay home.
don't become my sister. It's only going to cost me.
But you gave him a gift. Once you gave him a gift, he becomes your sister.
I'm saying you should stop and don't take the first gift.
Here.
Then we don't have
So this is a Gavaltika Gemara, how it worked in those days. Okay, I didn't learn this Gemara yet. So we're learning this more together from scratch. If I get stuck, we'll stop. But if I don't get stuck, we'll continue. Tander Rabban, Osir Nichsen.
What do you mean? You listened to something?
I don't remember it. Yeah, I'm trying to go by there.
You go too far. Also, you might.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped.
You want to go really by.
Tander Rabban, Asa Imai Bepumbi. What does Asa Bepumbi means? Begoli Simcha Mefreshemes. So the first guy made a big fancy chasna. V'zeh shechazav v'nasa gamhu isha bikesh lasas chupasa b'tznius. He wanted to make a small, intimate wedding. Oy lefisha sorry, or it was COVID, and he couldn't make a big chasna. Oy should write to the tamtam sudase, or maybe he just wants to be more careful with his expenses. He's not interested in making such a fancy party. So Taner about also if he made a big fancy chasna, and he wants to make a small chasna, he could tell him, he could say, I made a big party. You made a simple party. You make it the chasna. I invited you to an extension fork roast beef chasna, and you're going to now give me a piece of feather with some chicken attached to it? So you can say, I'm not giving you a gift. You made the chasna. Too bad. I'm not going to give you a gift.
Well, he has to give him something.
But I could demand that you give me a right. I mean, could be I could reconciliate. Also, so he married a basula, and now the guy back married almana. I guess there's less of a simcha. Does the Rashbam speak about that? He does not. Okay, next. Also, imay b'shnia ubikesh lachas imay barishayna.
He can collect a gift for himself.
Well, he could say, I don't have to give you a gift because you didn't party. You didn't make me a good party. You gotta make me a party. If you don't make me the party, but until you make the party, it doesn't trigger the chiyuv. Okay, so what about also imay b'shnia? He had a second marriage. Ubikesh lachas imay barishayna. When you marry your second wife, I guess he was having two wives, right? Then asa imach. Also imay ba'achas ubikesh lachas imay b'shtayim. He was marrying two wives at the same time. Man, I can imagine how the Bachatanim worked that paying for achas. Yochaloimerloi ba'achas asa imach kederech shasisa imi. But I'm not going to do a lavish wedding with two people. So basically, it's mamish that petty. You can literally compare the menu. If you don't like it, you don't have to give a gift.
For a double wedding.
It's a shtickle, not classy, I think. His wife is beating him up. His wife is not going to come to the next wedding.
The first,
Yeah. No, it could be the second shver was wealthy.
Like a double header game.
No, it could be the second shver was wealthy. Osher b'nichsin, Osher, that's fighter. He could say, I don't need this simcha yisera. I guess he could say it has to be the same type that I made. Okay, so I guess he could complain if it's even too big. If it's either too big or too small, both of them he could say it's not what I signed up for. Okay, Taner Rabban Osher Nichsin, Osher Pumbi, Ate Nichsin, Ate Pumbi. Zehu bal hagados. Let's see what this means. Zokter Rashbam. Ate benichsen osher misados ukromim v'zaisim hanirmal bris. If someone's wealth is everyone could see it. It's known to everybody. The gam osher pumbi osher agoli going to behemoth shakol yodim ben. if someone has wealth that everybody could see, everyone could know about, Zeu Bal Agoda, meaning Shadorish B'chol Mokim B'Rabna Basim Mishtorish. He's a big knacker, he's a hacker, he's talking Shadorish B'Yavim Tovim Makol Nosafim L'Shmoya. If someone knows you're rich, everybody wants to hear your opinion. Yes, the Kachachma, right? If I were a rich man, everybody would ask me for advice, right? Uvalash Mienu, Shemitoich She'ein Agodois, Shrichas Ian, Yochelich B'chol Mokim. This guy is probably a Grab Amoritz, but a Machzach, a good Tam Chacham, but he gets away with saying Diri Agoda because that anyone could darshan. However, Asher Sloilim, if he's rich because he has stocks in the bank or cash, and that people don't necessarily see, Asher Sloim, Asher Takua, Zeu Pal Pilp. He's a guy, when he speaks, he has to know what he's talking about. Asher Sloim, Shulchani, Shemistaker Tamid Beminim at Beyois, Asher Takua, Yesh Meforshim, Sheyesh Lebatim Harbe. He has a lot of homes. Umistakaban and Tadr, and he makes money off renting them. Umikri Hachi al Shem V'Yakov Takes Aholo. He planted his house. So if someone owns farmland, that's a knacker. If someone owns apartment buildings, unbelievable. V'li near Kedarminim b'Menachos Takua Alpha L'Shmon. I don't know what that means. Iri was a city. Umshama Yimavin Shemen L'Menachos. So Takua Alpha L'Shemen. So it's a city. V'dima L'Metbeos U'L'Shemen as a pilpul. We're comparing pilpul to matbeis and shemen. Why? Al shem shemarviach yoim kadir bepilpulei tamim harbe. They have a steady income stream. A field doesn't have a steady income stream. It comes in crops, right, in seasons. But this is a steady income stream. Keshar matbeis v'tamei hashemen shemavim mitakua. Okay, so so we're talking about different types of wealth. So the type of wealth that's superficial, everyone could see. He's a guy who's darshaning, but he darshans a lot. That means he doesn't become a chacham. Someone who has these types of wealth, that's called a bal pilpul, because he's constantly being mechadish things. Aser mashach, aser kamas, zeu bal shmuais. What does this mean? Aser mashach, anshe midos, mitagamin inshe mashcha, means aser bedover hamadut. He's wealthy. He owns measurable items. Going tvua, he owns warehouses of grain. She'ein mistakrim ba tadir. It's a seasonal product.
He's only rich. He's paper rich.
I hear.
Only when he sells it.
Which means kamas umadi chasam b'troisai. It's wealth that's in my storehouses. Davar shemachnisa la'itz. So what is that? That's about Shmoy Dr. Rishbam Sheyidei halachos. He knows halachos. Umemorish hamaroim. So we're comparing different type of Talmidei Chachamim to different types of gerim, right? If you know halachas, you're like an usher mashach, like your own oil or your own crops. And if you're a bal pilpul, you're like someone who owns rental properties. And if you're a guy who just likes darshaning agadita, then you're like someone who owns fields. Okay, what other type of issurim there are? I'll take any type. Hakol Trichen Lemorechiti Gemara. Okay, let's see what that means. See if you have Gemara. Sugos HaTalmud Uteruta Mishnah Subrashis. That everybody requires. V'zeu Ikra Talmud. Shemloya Talmud. If you don't have the Gemara, Ein Lameid Nalacha Mitech Mishnah. You couldn't learn halacha from a Mishnah. Kedamrina Natanoim Mabel Olam. Okay. Zebal Talmud Shememis Atzmoi Lachavin Halachos L'Tar Savayos. So I'm not sure what it's saying. It's saying he's not a noisher. That's the basics. Like the basic building blocks is someone who knows Gemara and Mishnah. Everything else is a shirim.
That's about Gemara. Everybody.
Okay, Gavaltic. Okay, should we stop here? I'm struggling over here. So let's stop here. I'd rather note Clara when we learn.
And then we get into it.
Okay, everyone should have an awesomely wonderful